Namaste, I'm JV Dr. Sapna Gehlot and my session is on Austin theory of sovereignty. John Austin expounded the legal theory of sovereignty in his book Lecture on Jurisprudence published in 1832. His views were based on the teachings of Hobbes and Bentham. His theory of sovereignty was based on his view on the nature of law. He defined law as a command given by a superior to an inferior. He stated his theory: if a determinate human superior, not in a habit of obedience to a like superior, receive habitual obedience from the work of a given society, that determinate superior is sovereign in that society, and the society, including the superior, is a society political and independent. Austin theory of sovereignty has simple propositions. You can say the features just like the first one. In every independent political society, there exists a supreme or sovereign power. In other words, sovereignty is an essential element of an independent political society or state. In the absence of this element, no political society can claim to be a state. Next, the sovereign must be some determinate person or authority. This sovereign cannot be the general will as Rousseau taught, not the people in the mass, nor the electorate, nor some abstraction like public opinion, moral sentiment, the common reason, the will of the God, and the like. Next, the sovereign is not subject to any legal restraint. There is no legal limit to his or its authority. The power or authority of the sovereign is indivisible, and whatever the super command is law, and without him or its there can be no law. So these are the basic features of the Austin theory of sovereignty. Now we'll see the criticism of the Austin theory. The first is sovereign non-determinate human superior. Sir Henry Maine said, and other historical jurists have criticized the theory on the ground of historical fact. Sir Henry Maine said that in many of the empires of the East, there is nothing to correspond with the determinate human superior of Austin. In history, sovereignty has never been determinate. The next, the all laws not sovereign command. Austin's second proposition is that law is a command emanating from a determinate superior. He is a supreme lawmaker. Whatever he commands is law. As regard customs and tradition that exist as very community alongside a positive law, Austin's view is that they exist because the sovereign permit them, and what the sovereign permit he commands. This view has been criticized by the historical jurist on the grounds that customary law, which have grown up through usages and interpretation, had never its source in the will of the determinate superior. The critic of the theory argued that the sovereign of Austin is supreme only in respect of positive law and not in respect of moral law. He is not the sole creator of law. Then absolute sovereignty dangerous. Another objection made against the Austin theory of absolutism, which he attributes to sovereignty, like Hobbes. Austin held that the ultimate source of law could not be limited by any higher law, and hence sovereignty involved legal despotism. He argued that sovereignty is legally unrestrainable, and the sovereignty is legally speaking a despot. This position of Austin has been vehemently attacked by the critics, especially the pluralists. It is asserted that sovereignty can never be absolute in the real sense. The sovereignty may be legally absolute, but there are always political and historical limits to what he can do. The next, theory inconsistent with the idea of popular sovereignty. This theory is also criticized on the ground that it is inconsistent with the present-day doctrine of popular sovereignty. It cuts at the very roots of democracy. Democracy is based on the principle that sovereignty resides in the people. They are the ultimate sources of all authority. The next is the sovereignty not indivisible. According to Austin, indivisibility is an important attribute of sovereignty. This seems to be an untenable proposition. In every political society, there is a division of functions, and without such division, no government can conduct it successfully. In the British Constitution, there is not only a legislative sovereign, but also an executive and a judicial sovereign. So the distinction between the legal and political sovereignty also has two times has constructed to mean the divisibility of sovereignty. In a federal state also there is one determinate center of sovereignty. Neither the union nor the states can be regarded as sovereign because the power of each is limited by the constitution. And the last one is sovereignty cannot be located. Sovereignty in the Austrianism sense cannot be located in the modern democratic state. For example, in England, Parliament is said to be sovereign, but it can be dissolved by the king before its term. A body which can be dissolved by some other authority cannot claim to be a sovereign in the real sense. The cabinet cannot said to be a sovereign because it is responsible to Parliament. Similarly, the king is not sovereign because the powers that are supposed to be vested in him are in fact exercised by the cabinet. Similarly, in the USA, neither president nor the Congress nor the Supreme Court is sovereign. Again, neither the union is sovereign nor the state sovereign. The constitution is said to be sovereign, but it is an abstract entity and it is not determinate. So far in the conclusion we can say that in spite of all the criticism, Austrian concept of sovereignty cannot be totally rejected. You can say it cannot be totally rejected, but the concept is strictly legal and should be viewed as such. Garner said, but as a conception of the strict legal nature of sovereignty, Austrian theory as a whole clear and logical, and much of the criticism directed against it has been founded on misapprehensions and the misconception.